All right, all right, all right. Mic check 1 2. It's your boy Time out at AT Matrix, y'all. And we go. This is part one talking about the series. This is part one of the series talking about the Mandela effect. Remember, I said on yesterday. I said we asking questions. The question we asking is who, when, what, how, and why. That's what we gonna be asking. So the first question we want to go with is we gonna go with the who. We gonna go with the who, right? So take these earphones off. So let me see here. I don't know if it's getting me right. It's looking like it's only recording part of me on this screen. Let me see here. Built-in retina display. Okay, so it's picking me. That's what it's looking like when it's picking me up. Okay, cool. Hopefully that's right. Hopefully it's picking me up right. But yeah, so all right. So the first question: Who? Who exactly experiences the Mandela effect? That's gonna be the first question, right? We go go through these questions. We gonna go through these questions, multiple different variations, over this series, right? But we gonna start off with who experiences the Mandela effect. That's simple, right? Everybody, everybody. There are multitudes of people who've experienced the Mandela effect. Some people experience it, different ways than others. That's the key thing, though. Like so, let's see here. Who first started calling the experience the Mandela effect? That's another type. That's another question we can go by. Like, who was the first person to coin the phrase? Who decided whether something qualifies as a Mandela effect? Okay, that's a good question. All right, so uh, the answer to the second question, we already answered the first one. Is everybody experiences it. Who started calling the experience the Mandela effect? It was let me see. Let's find out. Let's find out. You know, let's find out. We want to find out. You know what I'm saying? So let's see. Let's see if we can find out. Okay, so um I'm looking it up right here, and it says the term Mandela effect was coined by Foina Broom, a paranormal researcher and author. Okay, it says the story goes around 2009. Broom was attending a conference and talking with other people about their memories of Nelson Mandela dying in prison during the 1980s. Right? We already know this. We know this from internet, or whatever. But now we can put a name behind it. This lady right here. I'm thinking it's a lady. Foina F. It's spelled Fiona Broom, Broome, right? So she talks about let's see here. I hope it's a she. I hope I ain't butchering this, but what caught Broom's attention was other people shared the same false memory, including details such as remembering news coverage of his funeral. Right now, that when I first discovered this whole thing about the Mandela effect, I said, man, maybe these people are confusing it with somebody else. Because there was another guy that was in a similar situation to Nelson Mandela in the same type situation, and that guy passed away. So I said, you know what? Maybe that's what they're remembering, right? And I wrote it off immediately. That's what I did. I wrote it off immediately because I was like, come on, man. I was like, this got to be some crazy stuff, right? But then all the other stuff started coming along. So that answers the first question on You know who coined the phrase and called it that. All right, who decides whether something qualifies as as a Mandela effect or not? I think that's going to be the people, man. The people are going to decide. They're going to be the ones who decides whether it qualifies as a Mandela effect. Like, especially a significant amount of people. Let me say that it has to be a significant amount of people because um, if just one person, one random person says they remember something against a whole world of everybody else remembering it the other way, is that justifiable? You know, you want multiple multiple grounds of proof. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, like I told you, and I gave y'all just this a little bit, you know, or whatever, yesterday, talking about the Bearstein Bears. You know, me and my daughter remember it being spelled as in you like you spelling out the word bear. That's what we remember. You know what I'm saying? And I think we even had books. We had books of it. You know, like doing throughout all the times, the multiple times that we have moved. You know, we carried those books and we had those books with us for a long time. But then we eventually got rid of those books. Y'all, that's something that's something that I want to say too. Sometimes you will think something is so insignificant, something as a book to keep verifiable proof. You think it's something. You think it's so insignificant. You just throw it away. You know. You like, well, who's gonna need that? You know. You never know how this stuff comes back up where you be like, oh man, I needed that. You know, that was my verifiable proof because I had the actual book. You know what I'm saying? So, who decides it? It's gonna be people. So that's why, really, I can't use that example because that's just only me and my daughter that believe it like that. That's only two people out of everybody on the internet. Unless we have some more people on the internet that come up and start saying, "All right, this is verified." You know what I'm saying? Now, let's go to the next question of let's try another one. Let's try another one. Okay, who is responsible for the Mandela effect? All all eyes are pointing to CERN. All eyes are pointing to the company CERN. Now, are they really responsible? Who knows? We don't know. All we know is that that's where everybody is pointing the finger at. They're pointing the finger at CERN because they believe CERN has something to do with it. Now, whether they do or not, we don't know. We don't have the ability to go there. You know, all we can do is speculate. You know, that's just like back in the day, Project Bluebeam. I used to do a lot of studying and looking into Project Bluebeam. And matter of fact, I even had dreams to where, I saw different things happening. And I was like, man, this would convince a lot of people. That's a lot of the dreams that I had. But I kept quiet. I didn't speak on it, and I just kept pushing. But I kept a watchful eye for that particular situation. You know what I'm saying? So, who's responsible? All eyes point to CERN. Whether they are actually or not, we don't know. Some people believe that this all could have happened in 2012. Some people believe that 2012, that's when this thing took off. But yet, like I said, you see right here that when this lady said, this particular person said in 2009 is when she earliest recognized it. 2009. Now, uh, that's interesting. So that means that whole 2012 thing should be eliminated because 2009. All right. Let's keep going. Let's see here. Let's go to a different one. When. All right. Here we go. Now we got the when. Um, when did Mandela effect become recognized phenomenon? Right. So that would be 2009, 2010, right? That's what that would be, because that's when the lady first noticed it, right? Um, when did people begin documenting other examples, right? It was a slow effect. it was a slow effect. It started happening on the internet when different people was coming up and bringing their evidence to the table. A lot of it was actually good evidence. You know what I'm saying? Let's see here. The original Mandela effect conversation happened at Dragon Con, involving the shared memory that Nelson Mandela had died in prison. Right. So then here we go. Let's see here. Broom formerly launched MandelaEffect.com. She says that once the site was active, people began sending other memories besides Mandela's death. And 2010 to 2014, this was essentially early documentation period. And let's see. Then we got in 2011, the Bearstein Bears became one of the site's major discussion. The subject really exploded into mainstream internet culture, particularly around the Bearstein Bears example. All right, so what else we got? We got some other examples that came up too. Star Wars, like the Star Wars one was the famous line by Darth Vader. The famous line by Darth Vader, as everybody remembers it, is Luke, I'm your father. Luke, I am your father. Right? I remember that line. I watched the movie, and I specifically remember Luke, I am your father. But then, whenever whenever this one came about and people was talking about it, I went back and I was like, hold up, and I was like, no, that's not what it says. Then I all right. So this is my rational thinking again. After that experience, I said, you know what, man? I said movies. I said a movie. People remaster movies all the time, and when they remaster movies, they have the ability to change the audio. So I said maybe they changed the audio. Maybe they just switched up the audio, right? That's what I said. I said maybe they just switched the audio. But then I saw people with the actual VHS tape, and they were playing the scene on their VHS tape, and their scene had it saying, Luke, I am your father. And then I saw people with theirs playing where he said the other thing. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, I was like, now this is interesting. It's interesting, but still holding on to the premise that movies can be digitally remastered, right? That's what I held on to. Now, let's see what else we got. The Monopoly Man. The Monopoly Man. That one really can go either way because it's easy for the mind to misplace something as a monocle. You know what I'm saying? Like, the little odd thing that he wears. It's easy for the mind to displace something like that. And then knowing how memory works. When I looked up videos talking about how your memory works, the memory it was saying that over time people lose little pieces of percentages of memory. That like their full memory of an experience is not gonna be the same as somebody else's. You know what I'm saying? Like my mom. My mom tells me a story. She used to tell me a story that one time I was outside. I was a little kid, little baby. I was outside playing with the dogs, right? And playing with the puppy, well, either a puppy or a dog or whatever. And the dog bit me, so I came running to the door and I said, "Mama, the dog bit me." And she just looked at me and she laughed and she said, "Well, bite it back." And then I went back outside playing, and then she said a little bit passed, and she heard the dog outside barking, the little, like a little puppy crying or whatever. And she said, "What's going on?" And I said, "I bit him back. That's what I bit the dog back." Now that's what she said, right? That's what she tells me. Now, when she tells me that story, obviously that story goes fur back. It goes further back. It goes so far back to where, like, when you're talking about I'm a kid, I'm a child, and I really, I really can't 100% confirm or deny, or deny it. But we look at who the memory is coming from. A credible source is coming from your mother. You know what I'm saying? So you know it has to be some truth about it. You know what I'm saying? And then we have other family members that verify the story as well, which makes ultimately what happened is what happened. You know what I'm saying? So that's how memory works. You know what I'm saying? I'm not against this Mandela effect. You know, but I think there's something to it. Now, my ultimate goal is to come about to see how it all fits in to the grand plan. That's my ultimate goal. I want to see how it fits into the grand plan because there are a lot of other experiences that I'm trying to get a grasp on and understand, and a lot of other philosophies that I'm trying to figure out as well. So that's where we're at with that question of when. Let's see if we got another one. What are these memories become? Okay, I already answered that. I answered it all at the same time. Let's go to what. What actually is the Mandela effect? That's the same. Man, we already know. We already know what the Mandela effect. But for those who might not know, the Mandela effect is when you remember something happening differently than it actually played out in real life. That's what the Mandela effect is. Um, an example, a created, a manufactured example of what the Mandela effect would be is me telling you that I remember seeing the Twin Towers um, on 9/11. I remember I was in Salisbury, North Carolina, visiting my wife's cousin. Me and her visiting her, and we were in her kitchen, in her apartment. She had a TV that was on the kitchen wall. It was like mounted on the kitchen wall, and I remember looking up and looking at the TV, and the news was on, but behind the news there was the outside of that particular news place, and I remember seeing the plane fly into the building. Now that's something actually that I remember seeing. Now, if somebody came and they said, "Oh, nah, the plane never flew into the building from that side," I don't know what you're remembering. I remember it. It came from the top angle or something like that. That would be an example of the Mandela effect. Even though I'm just giving you some hypotheticals. So that's a what. But let's see if we can get a better one. Can we get a better what? Um, Here's a better what. What is the purpose of the Mandela effect? That's a better question. What is the purpose of the Mandela effect? Like, what is it hiding? What is it covering up? That's a better purpose. That's a better question. What is it covering up? What is it hiding? What would be the reason to hide anything? You know what I'm saying? So, when you ask that question, all right, let's start with the first one. What what is the purpose of the Mandela effect? Okay, the purpose at first thought to me is to it. That's if considering if the Mandela effect is real. The purpose is to supplant uh, memory where memory was removed, transferred from an alternate universe. Right now, we getting because we going into the ultimate universe theory. we're going into the multiverse theory, right? So the multiverse theory basically says that while we are living within space time, that whenever we reach a pivotal decision making point in time where it could either be a left decision or a right decision, a yes decision or a no decision, a up decision or a down decision, a, you know, like whether it could be those definite distinct decisions, depending on which one we take, is depending on which universe branches out. You know what I'm saying? That's basically what we're talking about. Now, I used to do like I used to when I first heard of the term the multiverse, and like when I first heard of that, my mind had already said, that was interesting. Like when I first heard of it. And then what I used to do is I used to do different things. Like, say for instance, I went to work, and when I get off work, I take the same route coming back to the house every single time. Every single time without thought. We are creatures of habit, so I always take that same path going back home. Well, what I used to do is I used to switch it up just to see if anything different would happen. And sometimes when I switched it up, different things happen. Like for instance, like I think one particular time um, I said, well, you know what? Instead of going this way to get home, I'm gonna take this way. So I went a different way. And one of those particular times when I went a different way, and I kept going, and then when I got when I got into the place, the area where I stayed at, I was driving by. It was a garbage can. It was a garbage can I was driving by, and when I drove by the garbage can, somebody had left. It was it was a stand that had a whole bunch of encyclopedias. Somebody was throwing away a whole bunch of encyclopedias. Right now, what I did was I said, you know what? I said this is interesting. I stopped and I said, let me look at some of these encyclopedias because I haven't seen encyclopedias like that, for a long time. And I was like, man, this is crazy. So I just picked it up, and I picked the first one I picked up. I just picked it up and flipped through it. When I flipped through it, it was $100 that flew out. And so I went, ran, grabbed $100, and I was like, wow. And I was like, this is crazy. So I put $100 in my pocket. And you know what I did? I looked through the rest of them, kept looking. And I think I found like it was $105 altogether. And so, and I was like, that's interesting. And I got back in the car and left, right? No harm, no foul. But that was an experience that happened for me taking a different alternate route. Now, some people would argue and say, well, if you would have took the same route and you would have saw that, you probably would have did the same thing. Well, this is where it differs, because if I didn't reach the house at the same time that I normally would have from taking my original route. If by taking my original route, I probably would have got home a little bit later, and though that stuff might have been already thrown away. It might have been inside the trash can versus it being outside the trash can. You know what I'm saying? So that's something different. You know what I'm saying? Like, I used to do this a lot of the times. I did it in the years I used to do scrap metal. I did that. Like, I always challenged myself. Okay, I normally would go this way. I'm gonna go this way today. Like, I did that. I did that a lot of different times because I said, you know what? I just wanted to, just to test out something as simple as going, making a left versus going and making a right. I used to do that coming about. So That should cover the the multiverse theory a little bit. You know what I'm saying? We had 25 minutes. Let me see. Do I want to get to another one? Um, you know what? I'm gonna save the next one for tomorrow. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna save the next bit for tomorrow. Let me go ahead and close this up. It's been your boy Time Out, aka T Matrix, and this is the first series on the Mandela effect. Who, when, what, how, and why. It's your boy T, and I'm out. Peace.